Welcome to Aliens with JW, the podcast where aliens have conversations with humans. For today's show, we're talking with Jacob, a talented chef who is an artist, transforming wood into art. Jacob, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Man, you had to be really desperate to ask me on here and not had anybody else lined up.
I do, thank you. I do have a list of people, but we have good conversations, so I figured let me ask you. And I like the art that you be making,
I
especially with like,
appreciate that. No, and I am very grateful to be on. Thank you so much for asking me and inviting me on.
oh, thank you. But yes, one day I will get a bigger budget and I'll have a production team.
I'll be ready. You let me know whenever.
I will let you know. Let's start from the beginning. How did you get into transforming wood into art?
Oh man. Well, it kind of ties into my other profession. So I'm a chef by trade, and I got into woodworking really because I started getting really burnt out from that business. Can be very stressful, very challenging, and just very draining. And at the time that I started doing woodworking was at a point where I was just really just kind of unhappy at my job, and I needed an outlet. I needed something that I could, you know, put my focus and my creative energy into, and just with food, it really doesn't stick around very long. But I wanted to do something and have like a piece or something like whatever, and let it, have something tangible that I could have and have it stick around and appreciate it for a long time. And my grandfather and my uncle were both woodworkers, and creativity kind of runs in my family. My other uncle was a airbrush artist. My mom dealt with like fabrics and textiles and leather. So I had a lot of that, beginning some of that kind of mindset. But I really wanted to get into woodworking because I'll have a great love for natural beauty and natural world as well. So I wanted to, do something that I could, while be artistic, but also create things that were practical, and could help benefit me and improve my life as well. And I've been able to do that through there, like express my creativity and make things that make my life a lot easier and also beautiful at the same time.
Well, that's amazing. That's kind of like how this podcast started. Like the idea of this podcast was like I was being creative and I was trying to figure out different ways of like bringing my characters to life. And the
Hmm.
concept came to, hey, create a podcast where your characters in my graphic novels can be real and people can interact with them and have conversations. So like
Yeah,
definitely relate to your story and the process.
absolutely.
Next question would be, do you remember the first art piece you ever made? What was it
Oh
like?
yeah. Yeah. I do remember the first art piece. As far as like in this specific chapter of my life when I started woodworking, it was, so I kind of jumped feet first into the deep end. I started woodworking, and I messed around with resin, epoxy resin too. So I decided, with no experience at all, let's just combine these two things and see what could happen, what could go wrong. So the first piece that I made, that was purely artistic and just meant to look pretty and cool and fun for me to do. I took a piece of plywood, and I had these blocks of wood, and I just kind of glued them around in different places and orientations. And I had a bunch of epoxy that I mixed up and a bunch of different colors. I torched it a bit and got a little char going on there and had a border. And I was kind of go for like a flowing lava kind of deal. If you go way, way back into my YouTube and my Instagram, you'll be able to find it. I think it is actually the first video that I made. And I just, I love those colors. I like, fire too, and like all those really, really reds and orange and blacks and whites and silvers and stuff like that. And that's how they swirl together, especially with epoxy. It's really easy to get those really cool swirls and everything. So that's what I did with that. I did like, the charred burnt, and had some of the like that charcoal like cracks that come in when you torch wood. And I, poured the epoxy in all the different colors and had it swirled around. I really enjoyed it, and I just had fun. It was just kind of like I have no other particular goal other than I just wanted to make something that was kind of cool, and that I could, sit up and say, yeah, I made that thing, and then use that as a jumping off point to do other things.
Oh, that's amazing. The epoxy, that's like a really cool process, man. I would definitely like to see you do that, your process, how you do that in real time. That would be so cool to see.
Yeah, man, and epoxy, it has a definitely has a learning curve to it, but it's nothing that, you can't go into YouTube University here and learn, watch up a few videos, and some people that I know and I can definitely recommend that are really good at it, and they create some beautiful pieces, really amazing pieces, and it's fun. And I also like the idea of blending natural and man-made, because that's a lot of what happens with art too. You have like these man-made structures. I particularly like the ones that are like you have like the found objects and like the pipe fixtures and lights and all these other things, and then they kind of create or incorporate that into pieces. I really enjoy that because I think that's a really great expression of creativity.
Oh, that's amazing. And like the next question I probably have for you is like, how did being a chef influence you in being an artist?
Oh, very much so. Because you also, as a chef and like you're creating food, you have to make it appealing. So you have to have an artistic sense there, about like how you're going to plate it, the layers, like you have to, think about the height of the food and like how it's laid out and the negative space and the colors. And then also getting into like textures and composition, uh, also temperatures come into play, and like just how things fall together, because you have to make it look like something wants to eat, something that someone wants to eat, to be for people to buy it and want to eat it. It can't just be like just slap something into a bowl and just kind of just mix it up kind of like mush. It has to be appealing to a sense. And then, like I said, there's a play of colors, and also there's a numbers come into play too, where you're plating in odd numbers of thing to make them more visually attractive to the eye. That's a trick that I learned way back, and I incorporate that into whenever I'm plating things, or like when I'm teaching my students about how to use negative space and then odd numbers to make it visually attractive, because even things are they're pleasing to the eyes, and that kind of just fades into the background. But if you put something that's an odd number or odd angles and stuff like that, now all of a sudden we're attracted to that because it's not natural. It's not supposed to be like that. So it makes it more visually interesting. So you incorporate things like that into plating when you're doing culinary, when you're doing food. And that translated into my woodworking, as far as like, all right, I have kind of a sense of how I would like to structure things, and like playing with different textures, as far as like, maybe I have a smooth texture, and then maybe I'll do like some stimpling with a Dremel bit or like a rotary burr to create some texturing on this side, or maybe I'll torch it to have some visual interest, and then playing with colors. It also helps as far as, you have to be very methodical and manage your time, and you write out lists and have to have a plan in place for how you're going to accomplish a thing in the kitchen, and organize your time. And that translates very well for me in woodworking, because there's a lot of prep that goes involved that's involved with projects, and especially milling up the wood, making sure things are square, and even if you got to get things square before you make them round, or round it off, and other things like that. So there's steps involved, but I found that I can naturally easily get into those because I'm used to that process at work already.
Oh yeah, I like how like your process enables you to build things that are beautiful but also useful.
Thank you. Yeah, when it
And
comes
in
to
regards
that,
to like, yeah.
sorry, yeah, when it comes to that, it's either like kind of I had to pick one or the other. Most of the time, I'm picking something. It has to have a purpose, and I have to think of what is that the purpose of that item going to be. Is it going to be a shelf? Is it going to be a kitchen cart? Is it going to be a table, a chair, a bench, what have you? And then that gives me the basic idea and function of what I want it to be and do. But then from around that, I can get creative as far as like, do I want to like play with different outside textures? That's not going to affect the functionality and strength of it, but visually it's going to make it interesting and beautiful to look at. And maybe I'll mix up different species of wood, different stains, different hardware in there. So like I have like a bright shiny brass against a walnut or something like that. So that sometimes when you're given constraints, it also helps to spark and force creativity because you have to work within, you have to be creative to work within the confines of a box that you set, you know?
I like that process. I think my next question would be is like in regards to getting inspiration, like where do you find your inspiration for when you're working on a new project?
Oh God, all over the place, really. I've gotten inspiration from you, from some of our talks, various friends, coworkers. I'll be scrolling through Instagram or going through YouTube, and a video will pop up, or just sometimes in the most randomest places. So, like I'd be walking along, and I'll look at the sidewalk, and all of a sudden, an interesting set of cracks, catches my eyes, and I think that would be really cool, and if I incorporated something like that into a project, or like the texture on a tree, or how a certain building was laid out. It really comes from anywhere and at any time. Like creativity is not a thing where you can just like turn it on and off. Sometimes it really does just strike you. You'll have certain processes and techniques that you like, and you'll start to get very comfortable and familiar with. And then it's also what I like to do. I'll have those. I have my comfortable space that I like to work in, but then I also like to challenge myself and do different techniques that I haven't done before, and really kind of push the limits and learn there, because you're not learning if you're not uncomfortable. So I like to put myself into those situations so that I can see if there's other things that I enjoy that I wouldn't have naturally thought of before if I just stayed within my comfort zone. So, but really, it comes from all over.
I totally agree with you. Like I think like right now, like I'm kind of pushing myself outside my comfort zone. I'm dressed as an alien from my graphic novels, which is something it's something that's totally out of my comfort zone, but I'm
Hey,
pushing
hey,
through and I'm
you're
making it
pulling it off,
happen.
man. You're making it happen, man. You're pulling it off. I applaud. I applaud you.
I think when you're talking about things that you're interested in doing, what is a technique that you want to experiment with that you haven't done so far?
Hmm. Technique that I haven't done that I want to experiment with. I'd like to definitely try more joinery. I think would be really cool. And right now trying with like some of my cutting boards. I'm trying different. I'm getting more into end grain and cutting boards, and I want to start diving into some more like the 3D cutting board patterns that you can do, and because those are very technical, and I'm not a super technical woodworker, and I usually try to keep it on the more simple side and try and push the balance of what I can in a very simplistic way. And I like things that are easy. If not that's simple for me to accomplish, but I also like showing that literally anybody could do this. You don't have to be a creative genius or like a Van Gogh to be able to do any of this stuff. If you really want to accomplish something, then that's another thing that I enjoy too, is showing people how to do things, and like teaching them and giving them the confidence to be able to go out and strike out and do other things. um, but maybe some more end grain techniques, like some of those 3D patterns, or some of like the really, really crazy ones. I'd like to try that. There's definitely some more epoxy work I would like to do. Um, I would really like to try my hand at some more forging. I've done it a couple times and I really enjoyed it. So I'd like to do that a bit more. And maybe like casting, like getting a foundry or like something like that, like a little metal melting pot, so that I can do some like castings and like silicone molds for like custom coins and stuff like that. I'd like to do a little bit more CNC work too. And right now, a project that's actually in my mind right now and that I'm really excited about, because I haven't done it before, but I'm very excited about it, is incorporating 3D printing in a woodworking project, so that it's like it's necessary structurally, but it's also there aesthetically as well. So, and again, blending that man-made and natural, which is also kind of funny because I just recently had surgery, so I'm also a combination of man-made and natural. I have a titanium plate in my wrist, and that's actually what that project is for the therapy hand therapy center that I was getting my PT at, and they were all really kind. So I wanted to do this project and make a bunch of them and give it to those guys and kind of have it be that symbolic of like, that natural and man-made, the combination of the two, and how once you can integrate the man-made in there, and once you do the work and get everything there, it can feel natural again, which is kind of what I had to do to be able to get the function in my hand back. Um, so yeah, that's my current project that I'm toiling away in my brain, and one of the other many that I'd like to try in the future.
Yeah, and talk about projects. On average, how long does it normally take you to like create an art piece?
It really depends on the complexity of it, the size, and what I'm trying to accomplish. So, for a very simple cutting board, for example, I can knock that out in 2 days. And it's really like if I pared it down to the actual work time, it's probably like 4 or 5 hours. I can knock that out because I have to mill up all the pieces, glue them up, wait for the glue to dry overnight, and then I mill everything up to square and sand it down and get it nice and smooth and pretty, and do like some chamfered edges and stuff like that, and then put on the finish, um, with a few nuances here and there. But for like say my kitchen island that you kind of see in the background there,
Yeah.
that like that mobile kitchen cart that I did, that took me well over a month. It would have taken me less time, but I started it. I ran into like a real block as far as like, all right, how am I going to get on to this next step and what do I want to do? And so it took me, I had to stop, and I was working and everything like that. So I started it, I got a good bit, and then I ran into this creative block and blocking my process. And that took me a minute to really get past that. And then, but once, I had that lightning moment, and it had that inspiration, then it really started to generate momentum again. And then I got it done. Um, I'd say, just as a general example, like a couple of the shelves and stuff that I've done, maybe it taken like 2, 3 days between like just the scale of them, hashing out exactly how I was going to orient everything and attach everything, make it structural, but then, figuring out what kind of finish that I want to do, and then just playing around with different things in the process. And that's where I'm not really like, I have a thing that I need, but it's not like there's not a time crunch for it. So it allows me to take my time and really find an aesthetic that I like and that I'm pleased with for that piece. And then continue the process, maybe try a few little things here and there that I wasn't sure about, and experiment and be like, oh, that worked, or oh, that really didn't work. So sand it back and like, start over again, try something different. Um, so most of the time I'm not in a rush, and I try to take my time. So a few days, maybe over the course of a couple weeks, if I'm really not in a hurry.
I like how you touched on like mental blocks. As being a fellow artist, there's moments when I'm also having mental blocks and like
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how to get out of rut. Do you have any processes or techniques that you currently do use that help you when you're stuck as an artist?
Yeah. So one thing that I've really learned is, especially like this is applies really when as you're if you're also working and you're doing other things, and this is really more of like a side and a hobby, you're trying to really get it to go places and generate. I find that if I'm really stuck on something and it's just being very frustrating and I'm not really making any headway, I step away. I take a moment, I step away, and I work on something else, or I call it a day, so that I can, cool off, relax, or I'm switching my thinking so I'm not obsessing about it, so that I can change my creativity, I can change my brain and my thoughts, so that I can, again, relax that and start working on something else that requires my brain to work a little differently. And then sometimes, a lot of times, if I do that, if I switch on to a different project, something will come to me as like, oh, this would be great to help me get past and work on that. Maybe that'll be good for me to try. So stepping away, walking away, but also asking for help, asking for advice. There's been plenty of times like, man, I don't know what to do here. And thankfully, like where I do all my making out of is a maker space, and we have a big community there, and we're on we have a whole Discord channel and group on there. So if I'm in a really dire straits, or if I need a lot of help, I'll put it out to the community so that, hey, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm trying to accomplish, and I can't quite get this part to work. Like, can anybody offer me any advice? And then I'll get plenty of help, and everybody will break down their process and why they think that works, and like why it's good, and why they think it'll be best for my situation, and offer a lot of really kind advice, and offer up their knowledge very freely, which is one of the things that I love about this community. And asking for advice. Another great thing is like also like a lot of times it's a shared space, so there'll be somebody else there, so I can say, man, hey, can you come over here and look at this thing with me, and see if you can help me figure out what I'm doing wrong, or like give me some advice on what I should do so that this can be better. And most of the time everybody will say yes. And sometimes bouncing back those ideas and like saying that thing out loud will really help get you through the process, and help you generate those ideas and that positivity and that momentum again.
I like how you surround yourself around fellow artists that can help you like figure out problems and solve them. I do have actually that leads to my next question. What is some advice or wisdom you wish someone would have shared with you about creating art?
Advice or wisdom about creating art. Art is so personal, like not everyone's going to dig your style, and it doesn't have to be perfect. But if you're creating art, it doesn't have to be perfect, truly. It just has to be good to you, something that you've enjoyed, that you find beauty in, and that, as an artist and a young budding artist at that, if you're not, super in depth with it, um, it's for you to learn. You're still trying out things, you're experimenting, and I encourage everybody to experiment a lot. You're going to imitate at first because you don't know what your style is. You're going to try a bunch of different things, and then through that process you're going to find elements and techniques that you like, and as you collect all those, you're going to formulate a style that's your own, that really is your signature. And that's the point, that's the process. It's like, it's the journey. You're going to find all these different elements and things, try all these different techniques, experiment with different colors and patterns and mediums and whatnot, and you're going to find things that really resonate with you. And that's the idea. It's going to be the things that resonate with you that help convey your message, and people will get it, some people won't, and that's okay too. Like, your message is not going to resonate with everybody, your medium's not going to resonate with everybody. At the end of the day, it's about the message that you're trying to put out for you, and the people that get it will get it, and that'll be your community. And the people that don't, that's fine, they have other places and other things that they can appreciate. But if it's somebody that's like asking questions, that's trying to get it, that's fine too. That's really good too, because to be able to expand. But appreciate what you've done, appreciate other people's art, and give them their space to do their thing. And you can all come together collectively, or you can give each other room to breathe. It's all good.
Yeah, I really like that. Like one thing when I was creating my own art, I had a mentor. He was like, Josh, just put your art out there, and your
Mm-hmm.
community will find you. Those
Yeah.
that embrace your art will find you, and they will collect around you. So he was like, don't go out there. He's like, if you want validation, just put it out there, and those that like it will find it. So I like your process. Your process is very similar. It's really
Yeah,
great.
no, and like, he sounds like a great mentor. Yeah, and he's right. Like, if your community will find you, but you have to like let them know you're there first.
Yes. Oh, my next question would be like, and being an artist, what's the most rewarding part for you?
The most rewarding part. There's a few, really. There's a few. Um, for me, it's the satisfaction after completing a project. Like, if it's for myself, the satisfaction of saying, "Hey, I tried a technique and I did these things, and it came out really well, and I'm super stoked about it." And then I can just kind of sit there and look at it and really just enjoy it and kind of bask in it for a minute. Um, And then, especially if it's like one of the practical ones that I'm talking about, like if it's like a shelf or the kitchen cart, and now it's become functional. Now it's improved my life in a physical way. And now it's like, wow, God, it's, releases stress and it's pretty to look at, and God, it's just so good. And you can really get that satisfaction from there. And the other one is like if you're making it for somebody else, and when you give it to them and you really see them glow and say like, oh my God, this is so amazing. Thank you so much. This was not what I was expecting. It's better than I thought, and all the adulations. And when they're really gracious like that, that's a really fun time too. And then also, seeing it as, when you have a piece that teaches somebody something and inspires somebody, that's a really great time. That's a really great opportunity as well, because now you've taken it beyond just like being personal satisfaction or just as a gift for somebody. Now it's taking a momentum of its own and given a life of its own, and it's become an inspiration, something that can inspire, motivate, and educate somebody to hopefully want to do something positive. And that's a really great moment.
That's amazing. Like that's kind of like why the reason why I created this podcast is like to be able to share art with the world, and that's like a really appreciate your thoughts on that as well.
Yeah.
For this last part, I'm going to ask you some random questions. Say the first thing that comes to you. If
Okay.
your art piece could talk, what story would it tell?
Stop burning me. I use a lot of fire in my art.
What song is on your playlist while you're cooking or making art?
Ooh, American Woman by Lenny Kravitz.
Oh, that's a great song.
Like,
What is your go-to meal to cook?
go-to meal to cook. That would be ramen.
Ooh, nice. Last question. Is there anything you would like to share before we end the show?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I have, I've got my Instagram page. I've got my Instagram page here. You can go check that out. You want to see a lot of the different projects and a snapshot of all the different things that I've done. And then I've also got my YouTube channel. I've got several long form videos on there. Like I'm looking at it now, 106 videos. So it's been a while. And actually, if you look here, you can go all the way into the Wayback Machine, and you'll see the very first project that I did. So you can go check out that first project and then go check out the recent one, and you can tell me, what you think and the differences.
Oh, do you want to share your YouTube name or?
Yeah, absolutely. So my channel is called Maker Cuisine, MakerCuisine, Maker Cuisine, and it's kind of a play on, me being a maker, me being a chef, and just kind of my my style, my flavor. And I like to incorporate like some culinary thing, some food theme things in there, and like a lot of cutting boards. You'll see definitely a lot of cutting boards. So a few recipes here and there. But you definitely check it out. And you guys tell me what you think. That's my YouTube and also my Instagram handle as well.
Well, that's a wrap for today's show. Huge thank you to Jacob for taking the time to come on my show. If you like the conversation, feel free to share the video with a friend or a loved one. Until next time on Aliens with JW, the podcast where aliens have conversations with humans.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.